SNY Sal Licata, you see him on Loudmouths and Sports Night all the time on SNY, covering New York sports and covering the New York Mets, the team that Sal has been rooting for since he came out of the womb, baby. This is his moment.
Maybe before.
Sal, were the Mets screwed?
Oh. No, I don't think that they're screwed. I mean, I thought they weren't gonna. I thought they were gonna have a tough time coming into the series against the Royals. I picked the Royals in 7 reluctantly. I always said my gut said Royals in 7, my heart said Mets in 5. You hate to have the Game 1 result that you had, but ultimately, I feel like they could win tonight. I do think they will win tonight and try to make this a series. Not going to be easy, but I'm not going to say that they're screwed down 0-2 when they still have 3 home games to play here in a row.
What's going to be different about Syndergaard? You know, is it because he looks like Thor? He'll be able to actually blow the fastball by him?
Well, I mean, this is the difference. Syndergaard has high, obviously his velocity is better than anybody else on that team. And they throw, they have some hard throwers with Harvey and DeGrom and stuff like that. But those guys didn't stick to their best stuff, maybe pitching to scouting reports too much. Syndergaard's velocity is better, and I think he's going to trust his stuff more. I think you're going to see a guy who is not going to be afraid to throw the fastball because the Royals hit it. Look, if they hit it, fine. You get beat with your best stuff. Enough with the off speed or trying to make them miss. Just do what you do and let things go from there. I mean, you've seen guys have success with throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs, let alone 100. So I don't care if it's the Royals or the Cubs or whatever team it is. Just stick to whatever it is that your strengths are and let things go from there. And I think Syndergaard will do that better in Game 3 than DeGrom and Harvey did in Games 1 and 2.
SNY Sal Licata with Armen and Levack at Sal_Licata on Twitter. Tonight, Game 3 at Citi Field, 8:07 first pitch. Sal, you'll be there. Should Terry Collins do something different with David Wright?
Yeah, I think he should, and we're going to get to this today on SNY on Loudmouth about what the lineup should look like. I don't think he's going to move David Wright down, but I think he has to, and I think David Wright will be the first one to tell him that. Wright's struggling. It's unfortunate because he's the one guy you root for really hard in that lineup because he's been here through all the losses, all the downtime, the injuries, stuff like that. He's handled himself the perfect way. He's always accountable, never has issues off the field. So you root hard for David Wright, but it's frustrating to see him continue to struggle here, and I would look to move him down a little bit in the lineup. I'm not saying you got to bat him 8th. Maybe bat him 5th. Maybe move Cespedes up, who's struggling as well. Maybe move Cespedes up to the 2-hole. They should try to do a little bit something to get that offense ignited. I just think that Wright in the 2-hole has absolutely killed them because he seems to come up in every big spot, and he just doesn't produce with guys on.
Terry Collins seems to have he's actually used the term everything from here is gravy, in the postseason. He seems to have an aw shucks thing going on right now. Is that driving you crazy?
Well, here's the thing. He said that before Game 5 against the Dodgers, the everything from here is gravy. And while I understood what he said, I didn't think it was the appropriate time to be saying that. And then a couple of times during the World Series here in these press conferences, and again, I know they speak every day ad nauseum, and I'm sure he's sick of it, but twice during the World Series, Collins has referred to the future and next year. And those things, and I love Terry Collins. I'm a big Terry Collins fan. I believe in him. I love his passion. I think he's a great manager. But those things, I mean, you're in the World Series, Terry. You don't need to be talking about next year. You got, you hope you have 4 or 5 games left to play here in the season. Who cares about next year? We'll worry about that then. Right now, it's about the World Series. It's about winning 4 games here before the Royals do. So that bothered me a little bit. But overall, I love Terry Collins.
Sal Licata of SNY covers New York sports and the New York Mets. Where's your level of faith? You mentioned that Terry Collins should play around with that starting lineup a little bit. Where is your faith on the Mets offense and their ability to stink and get some runs in this series?
Yeah, I still believe they will. I think being back at Citi Field where, the crowd will be behind them, where they've had success this year, I think that will help. The one thing that surprised me, though, was against this Royals team, you figured that the starting pitching would be a weakness, and they've just been shut down. And in particular in Game 1, where Chris Young came in relief in the 14-inning game, and they basically couldn't touch him. I mean, the Mets weren't even threatening to score a run in that 14-inning game. So it was tough to watch, but I do think there are enough bats in that lineup that at some point somebody's going to get going. And I think Lucas Duda would be my main focus because he's hitting. He's starting to come out of it a little bit, and he hits home runs in bunches. I wouldn't be shocked to see a 2-home run game from him either tonight or tomorrow because also the matchup against that right-handed pitching that the Royals throw at you. I think Duda is the best bet as opposed to Cespedes, who's their other obviously legit power threat.
Sal, and I hate even asking this question to you, but if they lose tonight, do you think they juggle the rotation and we see Harvey again?
I think if they lose tonight, then Terry could start talking about next year. I mean, does it really matter what happens with the rotation? But no, to answer your question, even if they lose tonight, there's no way Harvey would pitch on short rest. They're lucky they'll get another start out of him because of the innings limit and all that stuff, and everybody seems to be thinking the Mets pitchers are tired, not just Harvey, but obviously DeGrom as well, which is some of the reason why you didn't see Harvey's velocity up to where it normally should be. Harvey's pitching Game 5. That is it. Steven Matz is pitching Game 4 tomorrow. And by the way, let me say this. I trust Matt. I like Matt in Game 4. I think he's been pretty good here. I just don't think Terry has enough trust in him yet. But they're going to have to trust him tomorrow because he's better than what they have in the bullpen. So hopefully it's not down 0-3 with Matt. Hopefully that's a big game. And Matt needs to win it to get this series even, and then you have Harvey on the mound in Game 5. But there is no chance, zero chance of that getting altered. Nobody's pitching on short rest in Game 4. It'll be Steven Matt.
SNY Sal Licata, born and raised Mets fan. You see him on SNY Loudmouth today. You can watch him on Twitter at Sal_Licata. Sal, did you have a problem with the strike zone, the inconsistent strike zone in Game 2?
Yeah, I did, but to be honest with you, I think it's both ways, and I think that, to complain about something like that is, it's pointless. It's not the result. It's not the reason why the Mets lost both those two games. Now, could it have been better? Yeah, of course. I mean, you saw Daniel Murphy getting frustrated by it. Clearly, it seemed to be frustrated by the strike zone in both games, so I'm sure other guys were bothered by it as well. I didn't necessarily love it. You're sitting there watching these games, you could tell if something's outside or a little high or a little low, and that changes at bat. But I don't think that it was the worst I've ever seen, and I also don't think it had a big enough impact to say that was one of the big reasons why the Mets lost.
Sal, what's the vibe in the city, man? How you feel Citi Field's going to be tonight?
I think it's going to be a nervous crowd. I think that I think it's going to be excited, but I think it's going to be more nervous. Now, if they win, then tomorrow is going to be more pumped up. And the same thing for Friday. But right now, they know they're on the heels here. I mean, you lose tonight, it's essentially over, down 0-3. So I think there'll be some excitement. Mike Piazza throwing out the first pitch, Billy Joel singing the national anthem. Hard to do much better than that. It'll be a crazy crowd, but I think it'll be a little nervous to start. And then hopefully they can get the early lead and then let that crowd explode from nervousness more into excitement and looking to get back into the series and try to even things up tomorrow.
SNY's Sal Licata at Sal_Licata on Twitter. Sal, enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully, have a great time. Hopefully, and we'll probably bug you in the future, man. Thank you.
Oh, all right, boys. I appreciate it. Let's go, Mets.